So I'm trying to look and see participants. How many participants do we have in already? Oh, here we go. There's about 8 people in here.
Okay.
So we'll wait a couple minutes and see who else comes in. By the way, hello, Paula. I didn't mean to not say hello.
Hello. Look forward to speaking with you more.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, so you're part of the Austin Up world?
Yes. Oh, you want to go ahead and tell her, Paula?
A little, yes.
Yeah.
What's your role?
Assisting with whatever is needed.
Do you have a title?
No.
All right.
So
Assistant first class.
exactly.
We'll go with that.
Exactly. We've got several things that are coming up in the next couple of months. And you may know that Teresa has moved on. And so we asked Paula to help us with some of those things and keep that moving forward into the early summer. So.
And for a while, the St. David's Foundation was supporting Austin Up. Are they still doing that?
I'm not sure that they've changed a few things in what they've chosen to support during the pandemic. And I'm not sure that they're supporting at the level they were, but I think we're still involved and in conversations with them about various things.
Okay.
So I guess we can go ahead. I can't really tell, Natalie, if the participants are just in here, but with their screens off or what? Do
So
you
it's
know?
webinar, so their videos won't come on at all.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
good. Well,
Can I
I'm
ask
gonna-
you a quick question before we get started?
oh, absolutely.
Okay, so how long am I supposed to talk? Am I supposed to talk like for 45 minutes and then have Q&A, or am I
we
supposed to talk for an hour? How am I?
Yes,
No.
we till you run out of breath. We typically run these for an hour. So, but it's really up to you as to how you want to manage it. If you want to take questions as we go along, and I think you said that would be okay.
I'm fine
that
with
may
that.
that may fill the whole hour, or if you want to talk 30 minutes and then leave 30 for questions and answers, however you want to do it, Kathy. It's your show once I go through all the intro stuff. So
Okay, well, I'll try to exit stage left by an hour.
yeah, and to be fair, it's not just your show, it's your show and everyone who comes in to attend, because we want them to benefit from this. So with that, I'm going to just welcome everybody to our webinar series on jobs. We thank you for being here. We're glad that we can continue to put these virtual sessions on. We're also looking at getting back to in-person things, which is very good also. And you probably either have received a notice on that or will be receiving a notice on some of our upcoming in-person job fair type events. But just a recap for those that aren't aware, Austin Up's an organization whose vision is to create a region that responds to aging as a dynamic rather than a stagnant force. We're all aging all the time, can't avoid it if we're lucky. And we want to make Central Texas a place that supports each of us at every age. Austin is number one in a lot of things, some good, some bad. But when it comes to employment for older workers who are still very viable and engaged and out there and want to work, Austin Up's trying to work to enlighten the employers about the value of a multi-generational workplace. We host 4 50+ ATX job fairs in the Austin community throughout the year. And those are the job fairs I mentioned. And their sole purpose is to help connect older job seekers to employers that are looking for those folks in their diverse workforce. And so we also have presentations like this that we put on to help people who are looking. In addition to this webinar right now, we have about 6 that we do throughout the year. I want to go back and talk though about the job fairs. We have one coming up in April, April 6th at Affinity Living Communities on Owen Tech Boulevard. That's from 10 to 12. The next one after that, I think, is going to be in May 11th at Solea. September 14th, we have one booked at Shalom Austin. And then we will have one in October, but that location is yet to be determined. And we definitely want to thank AARP for being a sponsor for those job fair series that we put on every year. They have been a longtime supporter of Austin Up. So wanted to get through all that and give you kind of the housekeeping of Austin Up, who we are, what we're doing here. And the next thing that I want to do is introduce our speaker for today, who is somebody I've known for many, many years, and perhaps many of you have. But she's going to talk to us about change. Her name is Kathy Lansford-Powell. You may know her from running the Launchpad Job Club for many, many years. We didn't get a chance to talk about that and how that may have changed. But let me tell you that Kathy was formerly an actress, a teacher, a waitress, a maid, a flute tutor, a math tutor, a hitchhiker, and a Harley biker, and a tractor driving bush hogger. This is amazing. A moderator, a motivator, a blues singer, and a bell ringer, a mountain climber and a set builder, a column writer, and a twin raiser. Those are the activities that she can talk about. Added to that list is what, again, you may be familiar with her for, is being an employment coach, a college instructor, nonprofit facilitator, and a nanny. You'd think that with all of that, she thrives on change, but actually she, like many people, actually hates change. But she's learned some successful ways to deal with the negative aspects of change while staying positive and productive. And that's what she's here to share with you today. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathy. Thank you, Kathy, for being here.
Hey, really quick, I'm so sorry. The attendees cannot see us. And I am trying to troubleshoot this, but for now, I apologize to everyone. And I just wanted to let Kathy and Chip know that that is happening.
Okay, well, then before Kathy starts, I'm going to announce a change to our program until we get it fixed, which is we're going to go old school, like you're sitting around the radio listening to a Tom Mix program. And Kathy, if you would, we're going audio only. I don't know how that affects you with your slides, but hopefully we can get that turned around and worked out pretty quickly.
All right, well, I'm going to share my screen with whoever can see me and pull up a PowerPoint. Chip, I'm counting on you to do sound effects.
Okay.
All right. So I assume since nobody can see the screen, they can't see this either.
Actually, I can see it.
Oh, I'm so happy. That's great. All right. Okay. So let me just narrate. The very first screen after the title screen says, this talk is participatory. So I'm hoping that I think none of you can actually speak, but put things in the chat. Natalie's going to be monitoring the chat. I'm perfectly fine with your asking questions during the talk, and you just have to put them in the chat, and then she'll read them to me and so forth. So you don't have to wait until the end if you don't want to. So, and we've got a couple little times when I need a vote from you, and one of them's almost immediately. So, in fact, it is immediately. So the next screen says, let's take a poll. In general, how do you feel about change? Do you like it or do you dislike it? And I understand that there's good change and there's bad change, but just in generically speaking, how do you feel about change? If you like it, put number 1 in the chat. And if you dislike it in general, put number 2 in the chat. And I think I can look at the chat.
Yeah.
I see a 1. I see a generally dislike, so that would be a 2.
We're about a 50-50 on it.
Are you? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
looks
That's all
like
I see there.
there were some previous to that.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, 50-50. Well, that's good. It's like a bell curve. All right. Oh, now I've got to go back to the beginning.
That's the math tutor coming out, right? The bell curve.
Yes, that would be it. But actually, if it's 50-50, it's not really a bell curve. So
Yeah.
Kathy, is it possible to send me your PowerPoint so I can send it to everyone since they can't?
oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to do that. All right. So change. What's to like? And I have a list of things. What I love in a real meeting is to have everybody just throw out an answer. But I'm going to show you what I came up with, and then I'm going to ask for your input if you've got other ideas. So one thing about change is we know that it stimulates the brain. And as we age, they keep saying, you know, change up things, learn something new, take classes, learn a new language, take a different route to work, because we know that that change stimulates the brain. It's not boring. The status quo, I got to say, you might say, yeah, I can do that in my sleep, but that's boring. So if you keep changing things up, it's not boring. Adapting to change, the adaptation is educational, and they say will keep you living longer and at a higher level of mental acuity. I have a good friend who was already pretty darn smart, and then he had a congenital disease that now that he's in his 60s, I guess, he is blind. And so he's learning Braille and learning how to do woodworking as a blind person. And I said, James, I know this is challenging, but I got to say, it means that you will probably outlive all of us. You've added years to your life by having to adapt to this enormous physical, mental, environmental, everything change. It opens opportunities for new experiences, obviously. It can take your life in a new, very positive direction. And it can provide challenges and problems that you need to overcome, such as his. Now, what else is positive about change? Anything that I haven't come up with here? If so, put it in the chat. And Natalie or whoever is monitoring the chat box, what else can people come up with?
Growth is one.
Growth, okay. Anything else? That all sounds pretty good, I have to say.
Oh, here's two more. If things are bad, it means it can only get better. And then another one is overcoming fear.
Oh, I love those. I love both of those. I think as I was creating this PowerPoint, I could not help but think about the people in Ukraine whose lives have been turned upside down in a very short period of time. And that old thing about what does not kill us makes us stronger. They are certainly having to go through some massive changes, and they're already pretty darn strong, but man, the folks that come out of this with a positive attitude, I don't know. Every slide, I was thinking about those folks. All right, so what's not to like? And since I worked so hard on this, I want you to appreciate the fact that on every single slide, the first word is change, and it's always in a different font. So if that disturbs you. All right, what's to hate about change? It can be overwhelming, especially if you're going through multiple changes at the same time. creates feelings of vulnerability and insecurity. Especially if the changes are not changes that you have instigated. You know, if you say, I don't like who I am, I don't like how I feel, I don't like this, I'm going to change. So if you are in charge of the change, then that can be a very positive thing and give you a feeling of empowerment. But if somebody else is inflicting change on you, then you're not in control, and that can really make you feel vulnerable and insecure. Adapting to change can be very, very hard work. In some cases, what you had going was perfect. Your home was perfect, your friends were perfect, your life was perfect, everything was perfect. And anything that disturbs that perfection is less good. And so you don't like it. And going right along with that, sometimes the sense of loss for what was is enormous. A great deal of regret and sadness associated with this change. Lack of control. And the major thing that I see about change is that whenever there is a change, it seems as though there are always winners and losers. And in some cases, when a change is good for one segment of the population, it's bad for another segment. And I don't know, there's a lack of equity in all of this change. Can people think of other things that I didn't mention that are also negative about change in general?
So the first one is, it might mean giving up something you like.
Exactly. Exactly.
Another one is not being ready for it.
Man, I think nobody's ready for it. I think change is, even if you think you're ready. My bank just changed ownership, and it seemed as though as like 2 months out, 3 months out, I kept getting emails from them, and I thought, man, this new bank is really on top of this. And when the change finally happened, it was just a disaster, and people are leaving that bank in droves. They just could not handle the transition fast enough. So yeah, they just weren't ready. Anything else? I also think of things like gentrification, all the new businesses coming into Austin that are bringing with them jobs and I don't know, sales tax revenue. So there's those good things for the city, but oh my goodness, rent is going up. The traffic congestion is worse than ever. Property values, taxation, everything is more. And it, if you could only just put a limit on how many folks can come until the city is ready for them. All right.
Kathy, we have one more.
Okay.
It's someone making changes without understanding current process.
Oh, isn't that an interesting one? Making changes without understanding current process. Yeah, that part of that is an influx of people before the city is ready. There was no infrastructure put in place. That takes a long time. If we, quit getting oil from Russia, and the prices go up. It could be that everybody says, oh yes, I have no problem with that, until it's $5 a gallon or more. And then suddenly it starts to hit home. Maybe that's another example of that. Very tough. So the next slide is a two-columned slide. And the question is, why are some people better at adapting to change than others? And I've got two pictures. The one on the left shows people packing boxes, and they seem to be so happy. And the caption is, I'm an Army brat. We move every 2 years. And the other one is somebody sitting on a box with the moving van in the background. And the caption is the same. I'm an Army brat. We move every 2 years. Some people thrive on change. It's exciting. They get bored easily. And so, you know, coming into a new situation with new challenges and meeting new people and, you know, new ways to have fun and so forth, they love it. They thrive on the new, and they get easily bored with the status quo. And lots of people suffer in the same situation. They struggle with meeting new people. They really long for stability, the stability of the status quo. And so when I moved recently from Austin to Indianapolis, and I had a few wonderful friends who said, you're going to need some help. I'll come help you pack. And one of them was a person that just looked as though she was a professional packer. She knew how to wrap things. She knew how to put the stuff properly in boxes. She knew it all. And I said, my gosh, you could make money at this. And she said, exactly that. I'm an Army brat, and we moved every 2 years. And one thing I know is how to pack. Nothing that I pack is going to get broken because I know better. Oops, sorry. So what causes some people to be better at it than others? Is it nature or is it nurture? So some people, it seems as though if you look at the articles that are written about birth order, there are some people that their birth order means that they are natural leaders, that they adapt to change quickly. They bounce back in a new situation. They immediately sort of take charge, and they're fine. Those are people that perhaps thrive on change. When I taught classes at the Workforce Solutions Office, I frequently, well, every week, I gave people a personality test. And there is a personality type that is sort of in a situation where everybody else is running around saying, help me, help me. They immediately see what needs to be done. They see the big picture. Their adrenaline goes up. They're excited by a new situation. And so they will adapt really well. And it's supposedly just in their DNA. They were born with that ability. They were born with that personality. It's one of their soft skills. Soft skills generally you're born with, whereas hard skills you have to learn. And so this was just a natural gift that they had. Some horoscope signs, when you look at it, they say that they're people that adapt quickly to new and changing situations. So that would be, that's just your nature. With other people, their childhood experiences, like moving all the time, and they never get to really connect. They never are able to put down roots. They never have best friends because they're always moving on. And so it could be that it gives them a negative response to change. So childhood experiences can impact your ability to respond positively to change. Your parental attitude, if your parents always make change fun, if they always say, okay, here we are in a new place. Let's go. It's adventure time. What can we do here? What's fun to do here? Let's go. And parents' attitude toward change can impact the kids' attitude toward change. And the parents are the ones who can help somebody respond positively to change. And then I think there's that control issue as to who is deciding. If you are deciding you want change, you're going to obviously respond more favorably to it because it's all about you and it's your plan. But if somebody else forces change on you, then that can turn you negatively toward change. On Sunday morning, this last Sunday, I think that was where the show was. I only saw a piece of this. I wasn't paying attention, but some of you may have seen this and can fill in the blanks. But it talked about a kid who at 12 years old had a bunch of surgeries. He had brain tumor. He had a brain tumor that impacted his optic nerve. So he was considered his eyesight was 4 times worse than that makes you legally blind. And his father said, you can still ski, or maybe even taught him to ski, but helped him ski, not only ski with other people, but he became a competitive skier. And he skied down the snow that nobody else had ever touched it before. And so he skied down those chutes and lived to tell about it. And it was just amazing. So not only was the change foisted upon him by disease, but his father would not allow that to limit him in any way. And so his father helped him work out a way that he could do that without injury. So how it's presented to you can sometimes make a huge difference. So now that we've talked about nature and nurture, in your case, do you think your attitude toward change is a result of nature or nurture? So put number 1 if you think it's nature. You were always excited by change. If you said you like change, where did that positive attitude toward change come from? Nature or nurture? If you have a negative attitude toward change, where did you think that came from? Nature, number 1, or nurture, number 2?
So far, we have 2 1s and 2 2s. And then someone said both has had an effect. Both, another both.
Wow. Okay. It'd be fun to sit down with you, have a longer conversation with you as to what were your experiences. I'm going to probably bore you to death and tell you about mine. Here's my story. When I was 3 and my brother was 5, my parents divorced, and we moved from a small Wisconsin town that was kind of defined by my parents' unhappiness with each other to Madison, Wisconsin, kind of the equivalent of Austin. At that time, Wisconsin was a very liberal state, so it was a very different place. But my mother had to go to work. She wasn't getting any help. And so at a relatively young age, I mean, we weren't on our own at 3 and 5, but we were on our own at probably 5 and 7. And so I had all this autonomy. And in our school back then, so I'm really old, so this was 70 years ago or more. We were the only family that I knew of where there had been a divorce. And so some people felt really sorry for us because we didn't have a father, but I loved it because I had so much freedom. My mother was at work and brother was around doing whatever he wanted to do. So I loved that piece of change because I just had so much autonomy. So I liked it. Then after 10 or 12 years, she remarried, and for his job, we relocated, left all my friends, left my school where I'd been all those years, left the place that we'd lived. And I was forced, kicking and screaming, to move to Austin. And so I hated it. I hated that change, stayed in a bad mood for about 5 years, made sure everybody knew how miserable I was. And that relocation at that stage was a huge factor, I decided, in future decisions, in decisions about relationships. I didn't want to get involved with anybody that was more educated than I was, that could, because he came down to teach at UT. And so I didn't want to be controlled by somebody like in that way. And so that change, and I made sure that my kids stayed in the same place all through school. And I told them that when they were going off to college, and they said, really? We would have loved to have moved. This was a 2-horse town, and we would have loved to move. And I thought I was doing them a favor by keeping them in the same place, because it was a big deal for me. So that was definitely a nurture kind of thing. And then when I graduated from college, my very first 2 jobs in my career field, I didn't get fired, but my contract wasn't extended, and they could have kept me, and they chose not to. And so then I'm a single mother at that point with 2 kids to take care of. And I would do anything to keep a job, to have a job and keep a job. So I ended up in a job that I disliked, working for a state agency. I felt it wasn't a good job for my personality. And, but I did not want to go through unemployment. And I stayed in that same job for over 40 years. The job got better because I got to teach classes and I got to do job club. So the job got better, but it really made me reluctant to go through change and take risks and risk doing something that I really loved. So there was that piece as well. And then my current situation, to move up to Indianapolis, I had to quit my job, but I'm also a caretaker now. So I have a 91-year-old father-in-law with dementia, and I take care of a grandchild who's 1. And so taking care of those people, and when the little one goes to daycare, I'll have more time, but I'm not going to just be a full-time caretaker. I'm going to change again. I don't think anybody will hire me at this age, but I'll volunteer somewhere. And I got to figure out how to do that. So I'm in flux right now. So there are some things that I like about this new change. And then there are some things that make me sad a little bit about what I've left in Austin. So anyway, when those of you who said it's both, you like it and dislike it, I get it. The next slide is a cartoon. By the way, I will also say that this lack of ability to change goes deep. I kept my furniture in exactly the same place for 26 years. I could not even visualize any kind of change in my world. So the next one is a cartoon, and it shows, I wish you could see it. It shows a lady with curlers in her hair. She's wearing her bathrobe. She's watching TV. She's drinking a cola. She's got an empty pizza box in front of her. There's her pet pig that's next to her. Everything seems to be a mess. She's just a couch potato. And behind her is a chart. And the top of the chart says personal goals. And it has an upward line to show that her personal goals were ever more ambitious. And the bottom of the chart says so far, and it is a flat line, very low. So her life, she had goals, she had dreams, she had aspirations, and she has reached apparently none of them. She has adopted the status quo, and that has left her stagnant. In a way, that's my story as well. Although I continued to do more things, my job was stagnant for a long time. I had additional experiences here and there, and on my outside life, outside of my job, I feel as though I did some things and reached some goals, but career-wise, it's pretty much flatlined. The next slide has a phrase that is embrace ambiguity. And I have any of you heard that phrase before? And do you know where it comes from? Put it in the chat if you know.
I have. I don't know where it comes from.
Okay. It's a Dell phrase.
Okay.
What I've got underneath embrace ambiguity is a piece that comes from a Dell interview competency thing. So Dell has identified 5 competencies, one of which is dealing with ambiguity, and 5 competencies that they look for in every single person who is hired by Dell. They have only 5. And then they have the next tier, they have 9 additional competencies that they look for in people who are going to be considered for leadership roles. But this is for everybody who works at Dell. And they say what they look for in accordance with this competency is someone who can effectively cope with change, can shift gears comfortably, can decide and act without having the total picture, isn't upset when things are up in the air, doesn't have to finish things before moving on, can comfortably handle risk and uncertainty. And the opposite of that, someone who does not have this, is not comfortable with change or uncertainty. And if they determine through their questioning that someone is not comfortable with change or with uncertainty, they are not considered for employment with Dell. So once this whole business of can you deal with change, can you have a positive attitude toward change, once you see that it can affect your employability, it's like, yikes, I thought we were just talking about, do I want to move? It can be a big deal. Somebody who can, because businesses have to change or die, right? They have to improve, they have to change, they bring in new people at the top, new executive leadership, they change their processes. And if you say, I like the old way better, or if you are dragging your feet when you've got to learn the new software, if you are digitally challenged by new software, as many of us are, you just don't want to go through it all and have to learn a whole new ERP system or whatever. You may not be able to be employable in this fast changing world. So now it takes on a bit of a different twist. So how to do it, how to handle change, and how to thrive with change, even if you're somebody that you're not there, it doesn't come to you naturally. How are you going to do it? One trick is to focus on today and the future. Don't dwell on the past. Don't keep looking at the past with an appreciation for how things were, or regret about what you're leaving behind. it's not helpful. If we're talking about some situations, you should remember the past with appreciation for what it taught you, and perhaps what it brought you. But really, if you're trying to adapt quickly to change, you need to focus on today and tomorrow. And how are you going to move forward, move into the future with a positive attitude? You're going to kind of fake it till you make it. You're going to reframe the change that is so challenging to you. You're going to reframe it. You know, if all I said was, I didn't want to move, I did it because my husband wanted me to, I didn't want to leave my job, I didn't want to leave my house, I finally got it exactly the way I wanted it. You know, it's cold here. It's whiny. Nobody likes that. Quit doing it. And just think only about how exciting this is. Reframe it. You reframe it. You be in control of the reframing, and you reframe about how exciting this is going to be for you to move forward into a new job, into a new industry, into a new place in your career. But you have to be ready for it. Whoever said sometimes change happens and you're not ready for it, that's another huge part that we're going to talk about. Another way to refocus is to make a list and list all the positives you can think of associated with this change. Everything that's good about the change, whether it's new people, or whether it's you're going to expand your skill set, you're going to multitask, or you're going to be wearing a lot of different hats. And so that's going to make you more employable in the next job. Always keep thinking about the future and how exciting and interesting this change is going to be for you. It's going to be mind expanding. It's going to raise your IQ by 5 points, because you're going to be dealing with all this new stuff, and you're going to be excited about it. You're going to be excited about it. You're going to wake up excited because you're going to read that list of positives every single day, maybe twice a day. Before you go to bed, you're going to add new things to the list of the good stuff that's going to be part of this change. And you're going to read that list in the morning. And so you're excited about what's going to happen today. And then in order to deal with it, you're going to set SMART goals. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to listen. So all the positives, review daily, and you're going to set SMART goals, not just goals, SMART goals that are going to help you deal with individual little pieces of this change. So does anybody out there know what SMART goals are? And it's an acronym. I'm just not saying that they're intelligent goals. SMART is an acronym. Anybody able to key fast enough to get all 5 of those things in the chat? I hear keying.
That's me.
Oh, all right. I'll take you. And you can just read it.
I actually was just working. I started on this thing called Noom not too long ago.
Oh yeah, the weight loss thing.
It's been huge, 20 pounds. And but it's all about psychology, and they talk about SMART goals. So specific, measurable, attainable, repeatable, and timely. I don't know if R is repeatable. Is it? Probably. And timely.
You know, I've heard different things for the A, achievable, attainable, and different things for the R. I learned it to be relevant.
Relevant. Yeah, that's it. Relevant. Yep.
Okay. And then the last one?
Timely.
Okay.
It has a time frame to it.
Has a time frame to it.
A beginning and an end.
All right. And so if this is a huge change, like if you're working somewhere and they say, we're going to not do anything with this great big system, we're going to trash that, and we've got a week for everybody to be in classes to try to learn, we're going to have a brand new system. We're going to migrate to this brand new system. And so suddenly your world's crazy. People are moving around. You got new people on your team that you never saw before. You've got everything's different, and you just want to go and drink heavily because you cannot cope with this. So SMART goals are small, very specific. You're going to break up this huge change into very small bites, and you're going to have specific goals that are measurable, that are achievable within the time limit, and that are very relevant to where you're trying to be. And so I've got some examples here. I got to move faster. So first, here's a context. Let's say that you're looking for a brand new job as an administrative assistant, and you realize that your computer skills need upgrading. You didn't use Excel or whatever on your last job. You had a proprietary computer system that you've used, and so you know everything there was to know about that. But now that you're trying to apply for a new job, you don't know what people are doing now. And so you are going to create some SMART goals to improve your skills. So let's say that your very first objective is to learn Google Docs. And so your SMART goal says, I will spend a minimum of 1 hour a day for 60 days going through tutorials to improve my Google Docs skills. So that's Google Sheets, and it's, you know, the Google equivalent of Word, and it's, you know, all of the stuff, the presentation software. A minimum of 1 hour a day for 60 days, going through tutorials to improve the skills. So this is very specific. It's very measurable. It is achievable. Certainly you can do an hour a day and preferably more. It's relevant to your objective. It's relevant to your situation, and it's time bound. And after 60 days, if you discover that you just don't get it, then you might have to have a new one and go to school, take some classes, have a tutor, do something else to reach that goal. But I'll give you another example. I worked for a while with welfare mothers, and I was trying to help them with goal setting. And a lot of them would put down as their goal that they wanted to be good parents. They had a goal of being a good mother. Well, that's a wonderful goal, and it certainly is a long-term goal, but it's not a SMART goal. And so I had to help them divide that up to one piece, one little thing that is part of being a good mother. And so things like every night I will read to my child for 15 minutes. And if it was a child who could read, every night I will read to my child for 15 minutes, and I will have my child read to me for 15 minutes. So it wasn't, there was no end to that necessarily, but it was very time bound in terms of how many minutes they were going to do it. And it is certainly, if you do that, that is one piece of being a good parent. And so making that clear to them, how you don't try to do the entire thing in a SMART goal. You break it up into manageable pieces, as you would for any big project that you were working on. So 4 steps to success. And remember, if you are overwhelmed by this goal, if you're overwhelmed by trying to find a job after you at your age, if you're overwhelmed by all the things that are changing right now, that are changing the work from home piece, the mastering the whole distance learning thing. How do I do it without, it's too much for me. I'm overwhelmed. If you are in despair over your situation, I love this quote. It says, the antidote to despair is action. Part of despair is not being able to get out of bed. You know, that's a part of being depressed, is you can't take action. And I heard a wonderful presentation by a Launchpad Job Club member years ago who had suffered from chronic depression her whole life, as a child even. And she said she made it a point to do something, take action every day. Like she'd say, okay, the kitchen is horrible. I need to clean the kitchen. And she would look at it and it was too much. It was too much. And so she would say, well, I'm just going to do the dishes that are in the sink. And if that was too much, she would say, I'm going to wash that plate and I'm going to see how I feel. And if she felt after washing that plate that she could do some more, she would do more. That would be her new goal. And if she just couldn't, she would say, wow, I'm so proud of myself. I got that plate washed. And she'd go back to bed or whatever. But the antidote to despair is action. Do something. Take action. Break up large challenges into small bites. Identify achievable goals for every day. If you want to have say, okay, by the end of today, I need to have accomplished these 3 things, these 3 little things. And if that's too much, by the end of today, I need to make sure that I have done this. Have achievable goals for every day. Do whatever works for you to stay positive. If that's exercise, get out there and do it. Affirmations, writing things down, having a what do you call those? A visualization board where you, I can't even remember what it's called, where you cut up pieces of, pictures of things and you visualize this is going to be my success. The whole Noom thing, Chip should do a, I'm so sorry I called you Chimp. I got your name sort of convoluted. The Noom thing is all behavioral changes. It's mind stuff. You should do a presentation on that. I'd love to hear more about that. TED Talks are sometimes the thing that help people stay positive. Reading books, podcasts, all of that. What does it take for you to achieve the attitude that you want to? And speaking of that, back to Ukraine, I saw this woman who had moved in because her place had been destroyed. She had moved in with a friend, and there may have been other people living in this small space, but she had set up her yoga mat. And she said, I do a great deal of yoga because it's what I do to stay healthy and positive. And she said, when the Russians find me, I want to be angry, not afraid. So whatever it takes for you to have the attitude that you want to have, do it. And the last step to take to deal with change is to reach out for help or support. Sometimes change is just too difficult to manage and to overcome by yourself. If you have even one buddy that you're working with on your progress, if you have a small team of people, best friends who are all working together, whether you're training for a 5K, whether you're in a weight loss program, whether you're trying to learn software, whether you're trying to do job search, whatever it is that you're trying to do, I guarantee you it will be better, easier. You'll make more progress if you have a support team and you're helping each other stay on track. I guarantee you it works that way. So whether you're virtual, whether you're having coffee together and you're talking about your plans for this, dealing with change is easier when you're not all by yourself. And then I have some resources. I've got 2 TED Talks that I love. My favorite TED Talk of all time is called Embrace the Shake. And I hope all of you will go home immediately and watch it, because it's very cool. And you'll get copies of this, so you'll have it. And then this other one was, they're both short. This one was 5 Ways to Lead in an Era of Constant Change. And a lot of this is even just the way you talk about things, talking about them in a very positive way, and talking about them in a way that's not necessarily focused on you. It's focused on other people. And I think that is good. And then there's a book that was written a really long time ago, probably, I don't know, 40 years ago, maybe, When Smart People Fail. I have loved it ever since it was written. And it was written during maybe the dot-com bust. And it was written by 2 women, one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, who lost their jobs. And it's about how they managed to get back together or back to work. And they wrote this fabulous book. It's small, short. You'll love it. That's it. Questions?
I love all this, Kathy. This is great stuff. And you keep making reference to, constant learning and change to adapt to it.
Mhm.
It's that is something I know has, personally helped me in moving from one job to the next, and even more importantly, one different type of career, because that's the kind of change we, as the more mature population, are faced with, right? I mean, the job market's different, and most of the people that actually are hiring us or we're interviewing with are younger than us, and they see things differently. And unless we're willing to spend the time to educate ourselves about how they see things or the tools they're using, it makes it very, very difficult to get to that next step if you're looking for work. So this is the whole embrace change thing is so important. And I know it's not easy for everybody, but the information you've given us today and how to really take it, embrace it, and go forward has been great.
Well, good. Thank you.
I didn't look in the chat, and I don't know, Natalie, if you were monitoring questions. I had a couple of questions I know that came in previous to this.
Okay.
Maybe we can start with one of those, and this may be, you kind of alluded to it, I know, talking about your move, but do you have advice for people that are going through multiple major changes simultaneously? Because sometimes it's not just one change, sometimes it's a whole bunch.
That is very true. I remember this job seeker from way back when I lived in East Texas, and he came to my classes. He's a nice looking guy, came to my classes always in a suit. And then after my week of classes was over, he came back into the office and he was wearing, regular clothes. And I know he had worked in a bank. He had been I think even an officer maybe in the bank. And he had never opened up about any of his personal situation until he came in afterwards, and he was dressed like a civilian. And what had happened was this was during, I guess, a huge recession. And this was in East Texas, which is an oil and gas area. And he had had a lot of investments that had gone south. And so he had to declare bankruptcy, I think. And the bank said, we cannot have anybody as an officer in the bank who cannot be successful and with their own investments. And so we're terminating you. And when he lost his job, his wife left him and she got the house. And so there were all of these massive changes, and he was overwhelmed by these experiences. And he said, if only one of those things hadn't happened. He said, if my wife had stayed with me, I could have dealt with the other. Or even if I'd lost my job and I'd gotten the divorce, but I had my home and I could, putter around in my house and do the things I used to do, and be in control of that piece of my life, I think I could do it. But he said, to lose all of that. And I said, do you have any children? And he said, no. And he said, but I got the dog. And I said, well, I bet that dog is the most important thing in your life right now. And he teared up and he said, it is so happy to see me when I come home. He said, it means everything to me. And we all knew that eventually he's going to get another job. He's probably going to get another, his relationship is going to work out. Everything is going to work out eventually, but it was just, can you get through this time period? Because if you're looking for another job, you have to be positive. You have to have confidence in yourself and your ability to do things. You have to be looking forward to joining this new company with enthusiasm. You have to be excited about what the company is doing and your role, in this. You have to sell it. And everybody has to be a good actor, because you don't always feel it, and yet you've got to sell it. And so it's really important that you're able to reframe things in a positive way and surround yourself with the most positive people you can. People who believe in you, people who will support you, people who will continually remind you how great you are and help you on this journey of self-improvement.
We do have a question.
Yep.
The question is, does Launchpad have a list of online resources to help us get ready for change?
Not in so many, not like that. It's not phrased like that. One of the things that Launchpad does offer is we have a volunteer project program called Leap to Success, and people are asked to volunteer and work on short-term pro bono projects for other nonprofits. And I have seen people really transform when they're going to work. They're working as a member of a team. They're working on these projects to help a nonprofit. So they're either utilizing their current skills and very often expanding their skill set because they're working on a new kind of project. They feel as though they're employed. They come in and the nonprofit is so grateful. They're like the smartest guys in the room because they're coming in here to redo a website or help with a migration or whatever is needed. And that can be empowering. And people often say that helped me so much, that experience and working with those people. And it just reset my mind toward work. So there's that sort of thing. In terms of mental health and counseling and those things, I hope all of you know about Aunt Bertha, AuntBertha.com, I think it is. And we have that in our little handbook. But Aunt Bertha does hiring. Aunt Bertha has a presence as a company in Austin, but you go to Aunt Bertha, if it's not .com, look up .org, but it's one of those, and you put in your zip code, and then you have a choice of about 10 different categories of I need help. Do you need help with employment, with housing, with food, with counseling, mental health, with legal? It's all those different things, and then you click on that category and it might list 30 or 40 resources that would help you there. But really, it's a mind game, this thing about change. It's a mind game before anything else is staying positive and optimistic and setting these goals where you can say, I can do this one thing and I'm going to check that box that I've taken care of that. and I'm going to do this next thing. I'm going to get better at this one piece of this software. I'm going to finish this book on job hunting. I'm going to help this person. If you can get away from your own focus and get your mind reset to helping other people, that can be huge. That can be huge as well. And if contact me, connect with me on LinkedIn and reach out. My phone number's in there. Text me and say, can we have a weekly conversation about my situation? Absolutely. I can still talk on the phone. I can Zoom in. I'm not a professional. I mean, if you need professional help, you have to look at somebody else, but I'm a good place to start because I'm free and I'll listen to you and give you my 2 cents worth.
So Kathy, you talk about something like Aunt Bertha, where there's all these different resources, and oftentimes, we find that there are maybe multiple things we need to address, not just how to go about looking for a job, but maybe we might be depressed and we got to figure that out, and maybe we may be going through some other personal life things that we need to sort out. How do you suggest people go about prioritizing if they've got several things that they need to address, but immediately their need, and I'm saying immediately their need is a job because they're on this webinar and it's a jobs webinar. How do you go about prioritizing what things to address in what order?
As I said, obviously I'm not a doctor and I'm not a psychologist, but it seems to me that if your mental health is in a really bad place right now, that should be the first thing that you address. And there are some free resources for mental health. I'm a huge believer in pharmaceuticals. Lots of times people are not chronically depressed, they're situationally depressed. And that if you're situationally depressed, you don't have any idea what's going on with you because you've never had that before. You've never experienced that. Everything has always been pretty swell. You had a job, or it was easy for you to get a job, and you were successful in your job, and you got promoted, and you worked hard, and all of a sudden you're doing the same things and you're not having the same results because you're older. And so the rules of the game have changed, and you don't know how to deal with that, and you're very depressed, and you don't know why you can't get out of bed in the morning, and you should go see a doctor. Sometimes it doesn't mean that you are going to get any kind of a pharmaceutical that's going to be addictive, but just a little bit of something to elevate your mood enough that you can function. And I have had friends who've had those little, I take half a pill, once a day, just to get to where I can move on to the next thing,
right?
That I need. If you're housing challenged, click on that and see what's available to help you. There are lots of resources in Austin. But really, truly, if that is your issue, absolutely do not walk that path by yourself. Get professional help. And again, there are free places, centers where you can go to get continuing positive reinforcement, positive support. Let's see a professional. And then, it's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're about to be homeless, then if a job is absolutely what you need, see what you can take a survival job to get some kind of money coming in while you continue to look for the dream job. My survival job was always, waiting tables, and my bait's so old now I probably can't get any tips, but it was always what I did at night while I continued to look for something else.
But here's the good news. You can walk into 10 restaurants right now, and I bet you 10 out of 10 of them will give you an offer because they're so short on
that is true.
Staff,
and of course, people that are older and more compromised, there's more virtual work now than there used to be. And it's like, this is not a time to be too picky if you're lower, you know, if survival is important, that do whatever. I knew somebody who had worked for Facebook making a huge salary. It was such a huge salary that he said it was an impediment to getting another job because people would say, we can't pay you that. And he kept trying to tell him, I don't expect to get that much money. That was more money than I've ever made in my life. And I know I won't get that again. What you're offering here is perfectly fine. And he ended up taking a survival job from, that was the second shift, like 4 to 11. 3 to 11, maybe, doing dispatch work at a security company at night so that he could still look for a regular job during the day. I've seen people throw newspapers while they still kept looking, you know, there's just a survival job. There's nothing wrong with survival jobs to do something to stay afloat. And so I don't know. Some situations are much more complicated than a simplistic answer like that, but we don't have a lot of time.
Right. Well, do we have any other questions, Natalie?
No, there's a few people that put their LinkedIn information, so I will send that to Kathy after.
Wonderful.
If they put it in the chat, I'll just save the chat.
Yeah.
There you go.
That works too.
Okay. Oops.
Well, Kathy, I certainly let's probably then go ahead and wrap up. And I certainly want to thank you for doing this and for participating. Like I said, it's been great. I always enjoy hearing your perspective on things. And we're so glad that you're still available to us as a resource to come do that. Hopefully you'll come back again and do it another time.
Absolutely. I'll try to come up with a new pony show, and I'll send that PowerPoint presentation to Natalie right away.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Kathy. You were awesome.
All right. It was so nice to see some of your names, Carl and Randy, and some of you that I haven't seen for a long time, Sandra. Anyway, it was Sarah, it was so nice to see your names again.
We
Glad
did
you came.
actually just get a question. It says, at what point should we give up looking for appropriate jobs rather than food demonstrators or hosts at Walmart?
I don't think you should ever give up looking for a job that uses your skill set. It could be that we had a guy who had been laid off he was a COBOL programmer and had been laid off from IBM, and had taken some courses and some new stuff, and had been unemployed for a year. And surprise, surprise, IBM called him back and they want him to relocate, when he said, I'm fine with that, but they need a COBOL programmer in different places. So I think you should always keep your eyes on the prize. Always know what your value is. You may have to change your industry. You may have to add some new skills to support whatever it is that you're looking for. It could be that if age is an issue, you might not want to apply to startups that are frequently filled with young folks who don't mind working 60, 70 hours a week. You don't want that anyway. Go to more established companies, find companies where they've hired quite a few of older people. State agencies almost always don't discriminate for age. They may not pay you as much, but they've got good benefits. And there are tons of folks who've gone from the high tech world and doing the very same kind of quality work in a state agency. So keep after it. Don't give up. If you have to take a survival job, that's something else, but never quit looking for the job that's going to be your job, or start your own company if you can do that. If you're able to create a world where you're useful. A nonprofit might also, they don't pay as well, but it might be a place where you can utilize your skills, not knowing exactly what you do. But I would just never quit looking for something that really utilizes your talents. Keep your eyes on the prize.
You know, Kathy, I actually, when I was working on contract with DFPS, helping them fill spots, I found quite a few people from Launchpad Job Club. Some of them that were Dell employees that were out looking that have since gone to work. And one I was so particularly happy about, within 6 months of coming on board with that state agency, he actually got a TechStar award for, you know, being one of the top tech guys out of a couple hundred people in the IT department.
Oh, excellent.
So, but you're right. Another way to answer that question probably is to say, the only time you should stop looking for something you really want to do is when you've decided you no longer want to do it. But if you really want to do it, then do all the things that you just said about embracing change. Learn what it is you need to know to get those types of jobs. That may have changed from the last time you got one, but it doesn't mean you can't adapt to it and figure out how to get your next job doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, just, yeah, and continuing to improve yourself and improve yourself and improve yourself. And that stimulates your brain as well, because you're learning. So be willing to change. And the other thing was, don't talk like an old person.
Yeah. And by the way, don't look over this way away from the camera just because you have a second screen where everybody is.
That's
you should
true.
still look at the camera.
Yeah, this is my good side. All right. All right. Nice to see all of you. Feel free
Thanks
to reach
again.
out to me privately if you want to, if you need to, through LinkedIn.
Thanks again so much, Kathy. Natalie, do we have anything else to announce, or?
We do have, I know you mentioned the job fair at the beginning.
Right.
But yeah, we have a series of job fairs. The first one is in early April. If you have any questions about that, you can go to austinup.org and then click on events. And yeah, we'd love to see you there if you're looking.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending. And thank you, Kathy, for speaking.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.